I think we are
Do you want me
recording.
to go over this on for everybody?
Yeah, let me make my little spiel. I haven't had a chance yet to go over.
All right, this is Paul's email.
Okay.
This is capital projects budget.
Did Catherine and Roger get Paul's email?
No,
No.
I just went to you.
No,
Would you
Okay,
forward it to
I
Catherine?
just saw it.
Make it
Chris,
top.
Chris, if you're going to be in the room, you may want to shut your screen off because it's just showing nobody sitting there.
She's gonna go over to the other
I'm
room.
going back and see.
Chris, would you make Paul, Roger a copy of this and forward it to Catherine?
Yeah. What's the gist of it, Bill?
Haven't even read it. I believe
Oh.
that's why I want to do this all a bit smoother than it's being done right now. In my proposal to the board, have recommended cutting 2 hours from the proposed 6-hour position for the fire department, which is a net savings of about $18,000. And
But
apparently the fire department has an issue with that, but I have not read the email that Paul sent out to us, and I've got that on its way to you.
Yeah, well, we can go through this in sequence, but I do have a quick question. At the very end, in contingency, I'm looking at 142,291. And that means somehow 107,291 got added to the 35,000 that we had in there. So that's way beyond what we said we were going to have in contingency.
What contingency should be is the original 35,000
Plus,
and an additional 50,000.
that's not what it is. It's double that.
It should be, well, you're right, Catherine. What we've agreed to, it should be 85,000.
35. Yes, exactly that. And so I think we have a fundamental issue in that huge number in there right now. That's 107,000. If we take away the 70,000, it was 50,000. I'm sorry, 50,000. Then what should be in there is give me a second.
85,000.
Yeah, so we're over by 57,291 with the number we have in there. So right there is it's a huge number. So you may find that you may not need to do some of these other cuts because we actually have a typo or something in there. So I just wanted to point that out ahead of time so that before we start going through everybody in detail, you see that big one.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I'm looking at contingency. Are you on page 15, Catherine?
I'm on page 15, and the number I see in contingency
At the top of the
at the
page?
top is 142,291.
That's what I see. Do you see the $50,000 for energy subtitle we asked for? I don't see it.
No, but here's the bottom line. But even though we don't have that, let's just assume that, yeah, of course, we want to put the 50,000 in there. So we would have 85,000 in that contingency line. It just hasn't been broken out. Okay. Instead, we have 142,291. So we have an excess of 57,291 in that one item.
Chris, I had asked, well, I made it optional for her, but she had plans to be out of state.
Yeah.
Cheryl to join us, and she was not able to do that. So. And I apologize because since the ending of our Thursday marathon meeting with the Board of Finance, we've been running a little ragged around here trying to throw figures together. I'm not sure how that happened. Chris, are you aware of why that contingency, instead of being 85, is 57 and change more?
I have no idea.
No, that would be something Cheryl put in.
But the 57, that more than takes care of the 38,742 that we have to cut.
Well, I think that's Catherine's point.
Yeah.
Yep. So what, yeah,
But
what
as
we
I
have here
understood,
is,
before Cheryl generated this last sheet, we were still, based on the increase we were proposing, based on the budget that we supported that was given before the Board of Finance, and they recommended a 1% cut, that equated to the 38,000 and change.
right, we understand
And
that,
that was before any adjustments to contingency.
exactly. So, so I think in a sense, because we have this type of, I'm not sure what happened. Because we also don't have the additional position in there, if I understand correctly.
Chris, could I have that sheet back that Paul, I haven't had a chance to read that yet.
So I didn't behind your desk, I'm sorry.
Just give me 1 second to read this.
Yeah. Oh, and you said you sent that other. Let me look. So, yeah, and Bill, you're gonna have to read that email to me because I don't have it.
Okay. Chris, I thought you sent that to her.
No, she made a
Anyway,
copy.
I'm glad
Go
to
ahead.
read it. Due to the
Yes.
requested cuts by the Board of Finance, the department has, this is from Paul, have asked to reduce the fund request for the additional hours positioned by the Board of Selectmen. The requested information regarding cost per man hour per year and staffing impact was provided to the first selectman late yesterday afternoon.
Oh, so he's writing on behalf of the fire department. That's what
That's
his email's about?
That's correct. After a lengthy review and discussion, the fire department would like to offer the following information and possible alternative. The department feels that adding an additional 6-man hours currently slated for the 6 p.m. to midnight shift in order to staff the department and have a full crew immediately available for EMS response to a top priority. In order to maintain the current budget request and assist the town in reducing the expenditures as directed by the Board of Finance, the department proposes the following. The fire department will offer to remove the capital projects request for $16,000 for the purchase of a rescue hearse tool. There's a bit of a mistake, but the department understands that currently capital projects do not immediately affect the mill rate. Unfortunately, the fire department budget has no other areas that cost reductions can be applied. The department feels that the staffing issue is a top priority and will gladly work with the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance to make any necessary funding adjustments. The fire department is always willing to answer any questions and provide further information. Yeah, the hearse tool that they're talking about here is one of the ones that we feel is easily covered, and we've got it in our ARPA fund reimbursement. So that's the funding source, and the statement there that it does not affect the mill rate is correct.
No, well, yeah, but he what he's saying is he wants to take something out of the capital improvement, what they asked for a capital improvement, which has nothing to do with this budget.
Yep.
We're not taxing for that. That's all different money. So
there's
a couple of things.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a couple of things here. First of all, I don't think because of his position on the Board of Finance, Paul should not be doing this. Okay, this is a conflict of interest. So that's one. So in terms of him speaking for the fire department, he's not supposed to be doing that. The other part of it is, Bill, I'm not done.
I think you just made a statement that I want to have.
Bill, I'm not done. Bill, let me finish my statement. I have no desire
if you extend me the same circumstance on occasion, I will not interrupt you. Go ahead.
I said I have no desire to cut the fire department in any way. I'm just letting you know. I have no desire to cut their hours. And what he offered doesn't make sense. I think he may not understand. But the bottom line is I think the hours that they submitted were appropriate. So first of all, we have an underlying problem in the number that we have under contingency. That, again, that difference, I believe, more than offsets what we were trying to cut.
Well, and unfortunately, we're not going to be able to clarify that without Cheryl.
Right. So what I'm thinking is, when do we have to have our answer and revised whatever back to the Board of Finance for their Thursday meeting? Of course, we want to provide that before that. So is this something where we would end up, getting this straightened out on Monday morning with Cheryl and having a meeting Monday afternoon to look at what the real number is here?
We can do that.
I'm just thinking, it's kind of like, why waste our time? Not that I don't think this is important. I think it's very important. It's just that number is so big. And right now I'm doing some just math to make sure that the total that came up and everything is appropriate based upon that number. So if you want to look at any other ones in detail, I just looked at this morning, but I have a couple of them that we don't want to cut the fire department for the hours. There's some other areas where the cuts make perfect sense should we decide to go that route. And there's a couple that didn't for me. But the reality is if in fact we have the wrong number here to work with in contingency and it's throwing things off, then if we were to get that straightened out, when we reconvened on Monday, we could take another look at some of these other areas. If you think that further cuts would be desirable, it would be more than 1% cut.
The revised budget with the edits that I had Chris forward, you and Roger yesterday, do meet the 38,000 that we talked about on Thursday that we were going to have to reach.
Yep.
But I have no problem of adjourning this meeting and re-adjourning on Thursday after Cheryl is back.
Oh, you mean Monday
Monday.
afternoon? So if in fact she's able to, straighten it out on Monday, I'm assuming on Monday morning.
I've got it.
And
filling
Chris,
it.
I appreciate the work you did.
Yeah,
because
just filling it at 8 o'clock, so I'll be just sitting here dribbling on myself, but all good.
And Chris, I appreciate the work you did because I can see your handwriting in this. Okay, taking the numbers in there. Bill, I just wanted to confirm what was not added. And I wasn't sure at the point in time of the Board of Finance meeting what they had really in front of them. I didn't know if they'd gotten an amended budget. It doesn't have the treasurer assist floater, whatever we want to call that person, in the budget, correct?
Yeah, and what I'm suspecting
thought we were
is
putting it in.
because can I speak?
Yeah.
Okay. The figure that contingency figure is off of the 57 and change you mentioned corresponds with that position figure. So.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
All
So-
you have left,
What?
if you take
The contingency.
the overage of 57,291,
That's the figure that's the same dollar amount for that new position that we asked to be added.
yeah, but you have to take the 57,291 and subtract the 38,742. That's the cut. So all you have left is 18,549.
That we don't have to cut.
Right. That you can reinstate
Um,
or whatever you're going to do with it.
Yeah, I'm a little confused. Could you kind of maybe say that a different way? I'm looking at the numbers. So if we in fact had 85,000 in there,
Right.
We would then have, basically, without having done anything, we would have 57,291 already taken out.
Right, and the 1% number is 38,742.
Right, so we could actually add in the 18,000.
The bottom
It's not
line,
cutting anything.
the bottom line, to be exact on what we were given for our cost for a 30-hour position,
Yep.
and we have yet to determine the title, comes to exactly 57,291.09.
Right,
Right,
so we understand that.
That's where the difference between our 85 and what she's showing in contingency is.
Very good. So, but as back to Chris's point, we could actually, incredibly enough, once that number is cleaned up in contingency, if we were not adding in that position anywhere else, we could actually add in another 18,000 to our budget. Budget request,
I believe.
which I'm loath to do. I think there's no reason to do that. But again, what are we thinking about for that position? Because it's clearly not reflected anywhere else.
What are we thinking about? Well, I know how our board feels about it, that we need to go ahead with that position. I'm not sure why she hasn't categorized that in another area in the budget.
Actually, what I was thinking was going to happen is that we would end up having to drop it down to the lower amount for the position with lesser hours.
Well, that's a possibility. If my recommendation was to cut 2 hours from that 6-hour position, and I had not seen Paul's email, and I'm still open-minded on that. I understand, and I've been a former member of the fire department and wholly 100% supportive of what they typically do. I'm not convinced that we should go forward with the full 6 hours.
So I look at the fire department.
Hold on one second, Catherine. Roger.
Okay.
But from a staffing issue, to bring somebody in just for 4 hours versus 6 hours is where you're gonna have problems filling those positions for just 4 hours. That's the other flip side to it. It's gonna create a staffing issue.
The other thing is, when I look at the fire department, the fire department's a 501c3, right? And the library is the same thing. I find it hard to accept that the Board of Selectmen would be telling those organizations to cut their staff's hours. I just don't think that that's appropriate for us to do. When we're talking about, bear with me, when we're talking about what's within the domain, truly within the domain of management for the Board of Selectmen, yes, cutting staff hours for the people who are within that domain, that's something I feel is something that's within our purview if we wanted to do it, but not the fire department and not the library. They have, they know what they need to operate with, and somehow it doesn't seem like we're the experts on what they need for staff.
Well, just, and I know you're aware of it, Catherine. I know Roger's aware of it. This is not a cut in existing hours. This is a proposal for a new position.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I know. I haven't, over the years, I've never seen the fire department come to us, lightly and gaily with, oh, we need this, and we just, need it because whatever. They've always been fairly frugal in what they ask for and do their homework. So again, I'm not interested in. I would not be interested in
Give
cutting
us
them.
taking this lightly or frugal. I think we're faced with a situation of trying to get a budget passed. And I have my questions with the increases, the overall increases even with the proposed cuts. How this is going to be received by the taxpayers.
What are we talking at? Do we have basically an impact in terms of the mill rate base? Do we have got that number get based?
Well,
on
we've
the-
got some very loose things that a number of people were working on that had different figures at the Board of Finance meeting. There's
Okay,
roughly what was thrown out there, and I haven't been able to verify it with Cheryl because she was running crazy
Mhm.
all day yesterday, and frankly, so was I. It's close to a 10% increase in the taxes. What they did Thursday night, they compared the value of a $200,000 home and with a typical based on last year's configuration of the $5,000 bill for yearly taxes.
Yep.
Becoming based on the budget that we're talking about of 5,500,
So,
which is basically a 10% increase.
so, Roger, it was Christina who did the homework on that. She set up a whole spreadsheet for herself to go through it. So yeah, it's a 10% tax increase. It's not, when all is said and done. All right, so our next steps here are what?
Adjourn this meeting, and I will call a meeting based on Cheryl. I believe she's going to be in. I know she's going to try to take next Wednesday off, but she's intent is to be here Monday. Why don't we set a special meeting right now for 3 o'clock unless you hear from me otherwise on Monday afternoon?
You bet. And yeah, and the other thing too is also hopefully she'll be able to make that adjustment so we have the truer figure here. But the other part of it will be that if we have any further adjustments, hopefully she'll have enough time to do that before she's out on Wednesday, because it needs to be sent to the Board of Finance, right?
Yeah, and she did say that if we ran into a problem, she would reschedule for Wednesday. So
Yeah.
she'll work with us, but I'd like to get these bottom lines straight and make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah, and I would like to make sure she's not having to run around with her like a chicken with her head cut off on all this.
Well, that's the time of the year.
We minimize it where we can.
Yes.
Okay. So should I make a motion to adjourn?
Fine with me.
so I'll second that.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye. Thank you,
Thank
and
you.
see you on Monday.
Monday.